like you just did, though.
Welcome back to the homeless encampment that we have outside.
As you guys can tell, we got evicted by our water heater.
The water heater didn't want us there anymore. Somebody drowned.
Just Tony the Tiger. Anyways, welcome back, or welcome if you are new to the podcast. I'm Christina, this is my brother Spencer, and we started this podcast to just kind of show that communication is key in all aspects of life. If there's anything that we don't talk about, or that we do talk about, that you'd like us to talk about more, that was a lot of talks in one sentence, you can always let us know on our social media, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can let us know in the comments below. We're also on Spotify now. Everything will be linked for you guys, so that way you can access us everywhere. Okay.
Even places where you don't have a home.
So let's get into the podcast. I feel like the first thing we should talk about is why our scene is a little bit different and why we're sitting on the same chair.
So what happened is the Leaning Tower of Pisa couldn't handle the amount of earthquake pressure that there was, so we fell off the second floor. Now we are filming from the first floor below us, so you can say hi to our neighbors. They're inside because we're kept out on the porch.
In all seriousness, though, we've been having issues with our water heater, and we put in tickets for them to come out and fix it, and they haven't fixed it. And yesterday, both of us were at work, and there was a notification. We have an app, because there are sensors for our water heater and our washer. If there's a leak, it'll like sense it. And so it sent us a notification that they were sending maintenance out because they detected a leak by the water heater. And we also got an email then that our building, they shut off the water. And I had this inkling. I was like, something bad happened. So I told him to come back and to check it out. Sure enough, the water heater, the pipe busted, and our apartment got flooded, except for my room and the bathroom. But luckily there wasn't too much damage. We have, what are they, blowers now in our apartment to try and dry the floor. And our water heater is still not working because I took the coldest shower of my life yesterday. But we're hoping to get it fixed. By the time you see this podcast, we should get an answer on what's going to happen with the apartment. But hopefully next podcast we'll be back in our regular area that you normally see us
maybe in the dirt, wherever you want us to be playing at it, we'll have it.
But yeah, that's why we're filming out here now. We didn't want to interrupt our filming schedule or anything, but it is a little chilly, so I brought a blanket.
Yeah, she's the one who gets cold. She was talking about the icicles in the shower, but I don't think she's ever taken a cold bath. Have you ever had a cold plunge? Even when it, like, well, you didn't do too many sports, did you?
Excuse me?
What did you do, boxing?
Let's go. No, we were in soccer together. You remember when you were bald?
I'm not talking about back in 2004. I'm talking about when you were in high school.
Oh, well, in high school, no. I just took my one PE credit to get it over with. But when I was in middle school, I took athletics. I tried
out, but you didn't have cold ice baths.
I tried out for basketball, and they said no.
Oh.
And that was the only sport I wanted to play.
Yeah, she's a baller. If you ever want to play street ball, she will fight you.
JK, I'm actually really bad at sports. Probably because I haven't done them in a long time, but I think even when I did them, I wasn't very good. It's probably why I didn't make the basketball team. They're like, no, ma'am, you suck. It also probably doesn't help that I'm short.
I mean, yeah, that usually can do it. I mean, there's people who have excelled in basketball, both WNBA and NBA, but it's pretty rare. Usually it's tall people.
Yeah. I didn't get the tall gene.
Excessively tall people, actually, because, like, if the average is, like, for women, I think it's, like, 5'6"?
5'8" is the average for women.
Is it?
Yeah.
Damn, what's the average? Oh, 6 foot is the average for men.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was shorter for women.
I think it's 5'8".
Okay, let's just say hypothetically it's 5'8". We're talking about athletes that are, like, 6 foot, 6'5". like easily, that are playing in the sports, both WNBA and NBA. So they would be considered giants.
Yeah.
So being too short for the NBA, yeah, you just have to be a giant. You need at least clown shoe size, which is 14. I don't think it's that. Not all of them have super big feet. Like, you can have somebody who's like really tall, but you can have like larger hands and feet than them.
Yeah. I don't think tallness is reflected on how big your feet are.
But I mean, kind of. I mean, well, in a manner, because I remember our brother, he was wearing like size 14. We would call them clown shoes, and I would have less, but I ended up being taller than him. And my feet are still smaller than his.
See? No comparison.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think there's a correlation, but not like entirely.
Not entirely, yeah. Maybe a little bit, but something I did want to talk about on the podcast, though. It's kind of weird because we're out here, but if you ever had like a full circle moment where you're like, this all makes sense now.
Is that what you call it? That's not an aha moment like they say in school?
I've always known it as like a full circle moment.
Is that how they said it like when you were in math class? Like, I get it. You had a full circle moment, sir.
I highly doubt they said that in math.
Come get your number 2 pencil that's signed by me.
Signed by you?
Yeah, well, not me, but like the teacher would say that.
What? Or they give you those scenty pencils where you're like,
Dude, they'll just knock you out.
It actually has melatonin in it.
It actually has like frog juices in it.
Ew.
I know, that'd be gross, but the teachers, they always have their pet frog. They don't usually reveal them, though. It's actually required by the FDA. Frogs have to be in the classroom. At least 5% of the time.
That's a very low percent.
Still required.
Anyways, I had a full circle moment. It actually has to do with this podcast.
Oh.
So this podcast, as I said in the beginning, is about communication. And there was a situation that happened, and it just made me realize, I was like, oh, this all makes sense. I'm going to try to explain it the best I can, but I'm going to use fake names because this does actually involve real people. And I don't know if they watch this or not, and I don't want to put people's like personal information out there if they don't want it out there. Although Jose's going to be like, oh no.
He's going to be the one person in the chat that comments like, what address? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to send him.
Drop the Addy.
I sent him to Robbie Rodden's crib. You need it, Jose.
But I'm going to use fake names just for that. But so basically, can you stop picking at your hand?
I'm nervous when I'm cold.
So you're admitting you're cold?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the blanket's definitely keeping it like that. I didn't mean to interrupt your story. I didn't know that was going to distract you. Maybe we should play ping pong with a penguin.
That would be less distracting, sir.
Oh.
But basically, I was at my workstation, and there was, we'll just call this person Billy Joe Bob.
That's a long one.
Billy Joe Bob is like across from my station, and Billy Joe Bob was like, hey, can you like do this thing for me? And I was like, yeah, of course I can do that thing. Now, mind you, I'm sure you guys have probably seen in this podcast, but I have what they call RBF face, which stands for resting bitch face. I look mad a lot of the time, even if I'm not. So after I'm done talking to Billy Joe Bob, right, I go back to my work, right? Except I have that mad face on, and I'm just like... So Billy Joe Bob, because they don't communicate, thinks that my mad face has to do with them. And is thinking like, oh, like they hate me, or they don't actually want to do that thing for me, right? So they're coming up with these assumptions that nobody said a thing, and I'm actually thinking about freaking Ronald McDonald making the McGriddles, you know what I mean? Like, I'm thinking about something so
She
random.
works at Mickey D's.
I do not. But then, you know, later on, Billy Joe Bob sees me talking to, we'll call this person Jojo Siwa. So Billy Joe Bob
What kind of family is this?
sees me talking to JoJo Siwa. Mind you, we're talking about work. Like, we're talking about, oh, hey, I need to do this thing. Can you help me out with it? Yeah, of course, right? Billy Joe Bob thinks it's about Billy Joe Bob. Billy Joe Bob's like, oh, they're talking crap about me. They're saying all this stuff. Like, they hate me, yada, 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 right? So, Billy Joe Bob is obviously mad and is going to talk to someone about it. Like, ugh. Like, I can't believe this person said this about me. Mind you, this is all based on assumption. They haven't heard a single thing. They're just assuming the whole thing because they think it's about them, because they struggle to communicate if they feel like something is upsetting them or they feel like something's wrong. So I'm back at my station, and Billy Joe Bob is acting a little weird. So I'm like, like, what's going on with them, right? But I don't sit here, or I try not to overanalyze like how people are feeling. Like, I try not to assume like, oh, someone's thinking this, you know what I mean? So I let it go. Well, then, I'm going and talking to my boss, and we'll just say my boss's name is Joe Goldberg.
Okay.
Not actually.
I don't even
though,
know
'cause
who
that
the
would be
second person is. Joe Kwan.
JoJo Siwa. What do you mean you don't know who that is?
JoJo Siwa?
She was in that dance show, like Dance Moms. She has the bow.
Why would I be watching Dance Moms? Please let me be enlightened by that.
Oh, I haven't seen it either, but I know who she is.
She's secretly turning it on, and while I'm going to sleep, puts headphones in, and I have to listen to it. And then in the morning, I'm just dancing for no reason.
You're like, why do I know this dance?
I'm like, ooh, they got some moves.
But anyways, I go to talk to my boss, Joe Goldberg, which, dear God, I hope that man wasn't my boss, but...
Wait.
Do you not know who Joe Goldberg is?
I don't either.
From the show You?
Yep, you're, again, pop culture. She knows this.
Okay, for those of you that know Joe Goldberg, you know that you wouldn't want that man to be your boss. But, so basically, I'm talking to my boss, and I'm just talking about me. I'm talking about, like, hey, like, I needed to get this done. Can you give me more information on it, right? Billy Joe Bob sees this, though, and Billy Joe Bob's like, she's trying to get me fired. Oh my God, I can't believe this. So now Billy Joe Bob is upset and is starting to spread rumors about me. All of which is based on assumption. None of it is true. And so this whole thing escalates. Billy Joe Bob then goes to talk to Joe Goldberg, our boss, and is saying all these inaccurate things that, obviously to them is true, but in reality it's not. And so, our boss is like, well, let me get to the bottom of this, right? Does some fact checking and is like, these are not accurate, actually. Like, these are actually false claims. And so, boss sits Billy Joe Bob down, hey, these are not accurate. I don't appreciate you spreading rumors about people, yada, 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 right? Billy Joe Bob gets very mad, thinks everybody is trying to go against him, and, ends up quitting. Anyways, whole point of the story is that if Billy Joe Bob would have just like communicated, none of this, like, it wouldn't have gotten to the point of like quitting, which brought me back to this, because I'm like, the whole point of the podcast is to show that like communication is key. And so when that happened, I was like, wow, like we started this podcast to show that like that can happen if you don't communicate.
I like how you explain that story, because I have the opposite story of like over communication, right? Because the goal is to communicate overall, but there is a sense of where like if you talk too much about something and there's no action behind it, then you're just running in circles. Then it's like the like old man trying to give advice to the young like child, but the child is already doing all of the things that they need to do, like they're making their bed, they're brushing their teeth, and we're just going to say they're like a teenager, they don't have any job responsibilities yet, but they're getting all of that done. Well, if they're talking about all of these other things, that are supposed to relate and be like higher things, to the man, but the man doesn't accept it, because the man is stuck in his old ways. He's an old man, but he has all of this stuff to share to him. Well, that stuff that he has may not be applicable, right? Because a situation by situation basis can be very impactful to how you should go about it, right? Because there's not those absolutes in everything. There's that vagueness that you don't know things, right? Like in that situation that you described, they didn't have enough information because they started to insinuate in their head that, wait, the events are going to unfold like this. Like they feel like they know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So they try to defend against it. Perfect example of this is like when you're on the road and there's a driver that you is like, whoa, they're kind of moving over a little bit, but they're not like using blinkers or anything. You're like, I think they're going to get in this lane. Well, then you're like, okay, well, I don't want to be in their way, so you slow down, and the car just ends up staying in that lane. Well, you predicted that wrong, right? Worst scenario, though, you're following this car, and all of a sudden, they're making a right turn, and you're coming at them at 50. Well, you're going to hit them because they didn't actually put on their blinker to go over. So you're having to slam on your brakes, and you're like, whoa, what just happened? Like, why did that happen? Well, they didn't communicate to you that, right? They didn't put on their blinker, so you were more likely to hit them, which is going to upset you. So the communication not only drives from like one aspect of like that situation, but it can also apply on the road, because our way of communicating is not just through language, it's through body language, right? And by language, of course, I mean like speaking in a manner, but body language being more specific, that's going to display a lot more of how the character's feeling. And that's what you should help guide your response or answer to whenever you're talking with somebody. And more on the situation of like how over communication can be bad, though, because I kind of went on to a tangent that came back around. Over communication is bad in specific manners. Like, let's say the person comes up to you and is like, I'm going to do this. And then, you know, they're going to have a deadline. They're like, I'm going to have this done by the end of the year. Next year rolls around and you're like, hey, did you finish that thing? Oh, they're like, oh, no, I'm still working on it, but I'm going to get there. And they just keep saying that, and then they keep saying that, right? Until they're like 60 years old, but they're still repeating that same phrase. And it's like, you were saying this the entire time, but you never did anything about it. Because normally you will see progress happen where that person, you'll be like, okay, they're doing that, they're doing this, it looks like they're building it. They're not there yet, but they're trying. Because that's motivational too. Them making that statement, hey, I'm going to get this done by this, they may fail to reach that goal, but that does not mean that the goal is still unattainable. You're just closer to it. You're just not as close as you anticipated to be. Like when you have deadlines for certain things, you can rush to the deadline. Like you're trying to do an essay and you're doing it at the last second. You can rush to the deadline, but you might not get a better project. But that's not to say it won't happen. Again, situation by situation basis. Because somebody is going to do that same thing where they had taken since the very beginning of the test to like overthink everything. They're like, it's going to be like this, it's going to be like that. And then they overcalculate where they need to go. So in a manner, that overcalculation can also be overcommunication as well too, because you're communicating only within your head and in yourself. Well, if you never bounce that idea off of somebody, you're not going to know. But if you only bounce the ideas off of that person, you're just going to get their responses back to you. But you have to think about it too, because ultimately you figuring out where your goal and route is going to be, that is your journey. That's why somebody shouldn't be a hero in your story. You have to be your own hero. Because if you think somebody's going to be out there to save you, although there may be the case, you still have to look out for yourself if that person does disappear.
I mean, yeah, you have to be there for yourself, I guess, but like I just lost my train of thought. I saw the carpet on the ground and I was like, oh no. But no, I don't know. I guess I don't believe in like people saving you. Like people can help you, but at the end of the day, like you have to like save yourself. And this comes with like changing too. Like in order for a person to change, they have to like see and like know that what they're doing is wrong in order to change. Like people can tell you 24/7, hey, don't put your feet in a puddle while you're touching an outlet.
That is such a weird thing, but okay. What?
But like sometimes, unless you like do it, like you're not gonna know. Could you imagine getting electrocuted?
No, I don't know how you would, because you're trying to connect two things. You're trying to connect that your feet are in the water and you're touching an outlet. What? Normally I would have been like, let's just go in the pool with a toaster, but you're like, no, we're going a different route on this one. Puddle with touching a plug. Not a common occurrence.
Is somebody jumping in the pool with a
The toaster incident 4 times this year. Better get on it. We just insinuated for people to do it. You can fly.
Don't do that. Please don't do that.
Yeah.
But the point that I was trying to make is that, like, you can't, like, you can help people and you can support them, but you can't change a person. Like, they have to want to change themselves. Which brings it back to, you can't, like, I guess, save anyone. Like, you can help, but you can't save anyone. Like, they've got to save themselves. They've got to be like, okay, I'm going to pull myself out of this. Like, I can do it. Because if you don't have belief in yourself, then it doesn't matter how much other people believe in you. You're always going to think it's not good enough or I'm not good enough.
Imposter syndrome is what they would call it.
Yep.
And many people actually run into that phase of that, like, when they're learning that new thing, because they feel like they're so far behind all these other people. When they do feel like they know a lot, because people are like, wow, you're really talented. You get all of those and you're like, but that doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like I've earned this yet. Like, I have to be able to, you know, continuously keep working on that craft. And they talk about the 10,000 hour rule, where to really master something, you have to put in 10,000 hours of your time to it. And that ultimately can lead to very good results, or it could lead to very bad results. But either way, you're learning in the process of it. But that's where your passion comes in, because to put in 10,000 hours is no easy thing. That accumulation would be, it wouldn't be a year's worth, I believe. 525,600 minutes. I can't remember it entirely, but
That song that you love to sing. You know it's from a musical, right?
Yeah, I was in it.
No, you weren't.
And it shows me in the corner, like, holding my lunchbox that has Nickelodeon themed stickers on it.
Wait, no, you're holding the blimp because you won a Nickelodeon award?
I did.
Slime him. The slime just starts coming down.
It's possible in these streets. Apparently somehow the thing above us is, like, also looking like it's coming off too.
We were joking that it was going to start crumbling during this podcast, and we're going to be like, the sky is falling.
Yeah, we had Chicken Little on standby if that was the case.
Yeah, he's waiting. I see him in there. He's cooking it up.
Just imagine if we just had a live chicken sitting in there.
He just, like, walks out.
But also, I don't feel like that would be the weirdest thing. Now, if we had an octopus come out.
It's not in water, though.
It's winter. Get stocked up on your octopus now. I feel like people buy it more during the winter, because whenever you go to, like, your Christmas dinners, they're like, oh, octopus? Oh, of course, I've been waiting for these tentacles all year.
What kind of Christmas dinners are you going to?
Well, let's just say that they're in back alleys of bars. I don't drink,
they
though.
Have octopus?
I just drink drink squid juice.
Squid or octopus juice? Because those are different.
Squillium juice.
What kind of juice is that, though?
I'm not going to explain. It's too many complicated processes.
Okay. I'm a little concerned. Just like that man walking his dog, he's probably concerned.
He's like, man, my apartment got flooded too. I hope he already knew. He's just like, yeah, that's why they're outside right now. They're debating on whether or not to smash through the floors or through the doors of the apartment office building.
There's nobody in there.
That's the point.
What are you going to do, live in the office?
I'm going to have my Christmas dinner in there with the octopuses.
So that's where you're storing them.
No.
He actually owns a fish tank, but he doesn't have any fish.
That is factual. Yeah.
He's got random things in there right now.
That's how it has been ever since my fish died.
What was his name?
They ain't coming up right now.
Did it actually have a name?
Yes, there was 3 of them.
Or you were
First
just like
one died.
fish 2, fish 3.
Nope, we're not AI generated yet. I would probably say, I want to say Dorothy and Nemo, probably. Yeah, we're the most basic people. And then there
You're
was
doy right now because you can't even remember the fish names.
Nope. One of them was Bubba. I should remember this because I have 3 water bottles with the Bubba things.
No, that's their names. You're always like, yeah, I got Bubba with me. Yeah, I smacked someone in the face with Bubba today.
It's happened 2 times.
By the way, Bubba is his water bottle, but his name is Bubba because isn't that the brand name or something?
It is the brand name, yeah. And they were called that. Bubba also, a little side note lesson. So in letterology, if you add up Bubba and you do like A starts with 1 and then Z is 26, Bubba adds up to a 28. And 28 is the number of wealth. Prosperity is what is said. Now, I didn't pick it purposely for that reason. I just saw that it was a stainless steel bottle that was durable. I was like, there we go, because I don't want to be drinking plastic. Because in plastic, you got to deal with, even though they take it out, I think it's the same problem that they have with like GMOs, is where they start like introducing new like DNA properties inside of them, and they have PFAs in them. PFAs are forever chemicals, to keep it short, and forever chemicals are chemicals that do not leave your body. And they are within the air as well too. Now, they might not be able to leave. What did you just do right there? I feel like you grabbed an air bubble out of the sky there.
I was eating them. What did you call them?
PFAs.
Yeah, I was eating them.
And within cities, of course, it's going to be more difficult as well. But I would also argue that in the country, it's also difficult. Because when you go to a country area, let's just say, and you don't, so I'm going to give you this question.
Dang, okay.
Do you think that they eat the food that they produce?
I thought you were about to say, do they eat PFOs?
PFOs? That's not even the same thing.
PFAs?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, because you said
Just
GMO.
say forever chemicals.
Forever chemicals.
But yes, GMOs, that is
yeah,
pretty
see,
close.
I'm getting confused. Oh, what was your question? Do you think they eat them?
Do you think that they eat the food that they produce?
Probably. Why not?
Right?
If they're going to spend that much time to do all that, then, I mean...
Yeah.
What are they going to do? Go to the store and buy a freaking Hungry Man out of the freezer? Even though they got a cow in the back?
You have a good point, and that's exactly what they do. Like, if we're talking about commercial farmers, right? Or even smaller farmers, too, that's exactly what they do. Because you go to their stores that are in the area, the local general stores, it's like worse than what they have in cities, in certain areas. Like, for instance, you take somewhere like California, they're very much like, vegan and pescatarian. They worry about diet and they worry about the foods. They also keep the minimal amount of like bad products in them, which is actually very good, which is like your sodium bicarbonate and all these like salts that they create when it could just be salt. They just combine chemicals together because they have an excess of it, and they use it into food just because it's cheaper to produce. So in California, they have been trying to get rid of all that. That's why they also were going organic. The only thing with organic is that you have pesticides that are not used, but they still use pesticides. There's just specific ones that they don't. And a product is considered organic if it has 70% of the material that is organic. So you could have everything besides, let's say it's like a spice dish with chicken. Like it's a marinated spice chicken. The spices don't have to be organic as long as it doesn't compose 70% of the product.
I'm so sorry.
What happened?
It stinks.
I didn't even do it that time. You must be smelling my feet.
I just got a whiff of nasty.
But in the food industry, they pay attention to that a lot in California and other states. And it is important because that thing that you do ingest becomes a part of you in a manner, right? So what is it?
I'm so sorry.
I felt like you're gonna tell me that you have to go change your diaper because it's getting intense.
I think the outside is getting to me.
I might be, but also we got these damp, wet towels from the thing that have been like that and got rained on.
I know. When I went to move them, they're still wet. Okay, but anyways, continue.
So basically, California has those standards when it comes to organic and all of those. But how this ties in, I guess, to everyday life is the things that is consumed. And with the farmers, they don't always consume their own product. It's not to say that they don't, but they don't typically, because that's their profit too. So they're having to balance between that.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, one, it could be that they're just selling it all. My other thing would be maybe they're too tired from work all day. They want something convenient, so they just throw a Hungry Man in the oven. That would be my other assumption.
Which is definitely there, and that's definitely valid because a long day working that is going to be like that. And if they're consuming like technology as well too, they're going to be in the loop about all of those different things and like deals. But also if they go to the store, like if they have a Dollar General or a Family Dollar, save some time. If you have those stores in the town, I mean that's cheaper products than what they're producing, and then they can actually make more by doing that. But that's bad for them because then that's just going to wear them down over time, especially them doing all that work too. You want to put better nutrients into you. And that's why there are specific companies that are doing that. And I wonder why we like completely went down that route of like food when there was nothing wrong with it necessarily previously. But I think a lot of propaganda has played into that. Like, oh, like meat is bad. Oh wait, meat is good. Oh wait, it's bad. Because like throughout history that's been the case.
I think it's just based off like if they're gonna profit a lot off of saying this thing, like alternative meat now is like a bigger thing, so obviously they'll throw the propaganda out that meat is bad for you, so that way they can profit off of people being like, okay, well I'm not gonna eat meat anymore, I think
100%. Yeah, it's an alternative. Like, did I explain this on here when I talked about like oat milk and how much like they use to make oat milk? It's a moth. It's a moth. Calm down. But why are you? It is a moth.
I don't like any bugs. You guys remember that SpongeBob episode where the butterfly goes up on the screen and he's looking just ugly, like his face is just like.
And it's like.
Exactly. Like the wings are beautiful, but if you actually look at that insect, his face up close, you're like, get away from me. That's how I feel about bugs. I don't care if they're harmless. They're ugly.
And this just shows the disconnect that she would be the farmer eating Hungry Man, and I would be the person eating the meat from the farm. That is always, not always been my mentality, but I kind of grew into that with all the things that had happened when I was like 18, 19. I mean, you had stomach issues as well too, but like to the extent where I could only eat like a banana, I think had shown me like why it's important to like pay attention to what we process, because it's two brain processes like communicating at the same time. Your stomach is communicating to your brain because you have to feel yourself. That's why like when you have headaches and stuff, of course they tell you to drink water, but the next best thing is put fats in your body, right? Like avocado, you need your brain because it runs off of fats. And if you don't give it enough, like some diets, I want to say it's keto, or that might be carb related. Regardless.
Keto is carb related, yeah.
There's one where like they don't do anything with fats, and it's like that's great, but that's not great for your operation mentally, because then it's like that starts degrading and you're like, ooh, I don't want to do this anymore. Or if you keep going through it, I feel like you start to break down another part of your body because you tried to do that. And it's in the word too, diet, D-I-E, die is inside of it. It's like, why would the word be set up like that?
I just feel like there's like I agree with you that like we should be eating better foods, but I feel like there's like I see this all the time, like on TikTok, of people being like, oh yeah, like these are like healthy food. I know you did not just go under my blanket. Sorry guys, this moth is bothering me. But people being like, oh yeah, like if you eat these like healthy foods, like I started doing this and now I feel so much better. The problem is they never expand on it. Like they never tell you exactly what they're eating, or you have diets that'll be like, oh yeah, do this, you'll feel better. But then you have somebody saying like, oh no, don't do that, do this diet. Then it's like, oh no, do this one, no, do it. Like there's too much contradiction.
It's vagueness, and I think it's purposely set like that for a reason, because then they can expand off of it. Plus, if they're trying to sell it to the most people, being vague is better, because then it's like, it's not like showing a side. Because I think that's what a lot of like, you know, businesses do nowadays, is they try to not say as much to things, so they don't try to, you know, start fires where they don't need to, because then their company is likely to fall down due to boycotting. Because that is something that's came back up, which is interesting, because like whenever we were having the revolution for America back in the day, that's what was happening a lot of boycotts were happening. And that may be something where it could be tipping that factor. Just hopefully it's toward the right way in terms of stuff. Like food. Like I would like to see food be without all of those chemical properties. Like we should still be able to, especially for cloning food, like we talked about in the last podcast, we should be able to do that with other foods that don't have all the excess stuff. Like if we can't grow enough spinach, I think that would be possible to replicate it from a molecular standpoint, because you can take just a DNA strand of it, because there's a specific company that does this with animal products. Like it's actual beef, but they raise it almost in an incubator, and they can grow a small molecule of it to make a lot more. Now there's a downside to that though. The downside is that not enough of the there would be too many cows or too many animals then, because we're not killing them as much. I think would be one argument with it, which is true, because if you're always breeding them and having them breed, yeah. And if there's too much of them on this place, we're gonna have something that I was shown today, this video of this lady that was like calling the Department of like Safety, or basically the people that are deal with like the toll roads and stuff, and she's like, I was going down the highway and there was this deer crossing.
I saw this video.
You did. And there was this deer crossing, and I don't understand why they cross here. Why can't they cross where the kids walk?
She was like, why are they crossing on like an open highway? Like, why are we giving them permission
to high traffic areas?
Like, what do you mean? Like, that's just a warning that they are going to be crossing over there. That's not an invitation for them. It's not like they can read.
Yeah, and that's just the area that they move and migrate. But I'm wondering, like, just if the lady never saw that. She never had seen, like, that sign before. Because, like, if you think about it in, like, driver, like, safety classes, that sign is not a question. Like, I don't remember that being a question. But it does come down to the commonality of it. And I think also, like, when you first see it, it's like crossing, and then you try to put the words together and you're like, oh, this makes sense. Okay, it's kind of like duck crossing, because they may have seen that as like a kid potentially. Or you're just like, okay, crossing, that means that thing that is stated is going. But it also could just mean that somebody put a sign there so the animals can cross there. Like, they're allowed to. They could read the sign and they're like, and then they walk through. That was her mentality.
Apparently.
And that is entirely possible when you are not exposed to it potentially. Because it was interesting. She said she had been in 3 different occasions that year, after seeing that sign, ran into a deer. 3 times that year.
Just because subconsciously she was inviting them to walk across, because that's what she thought the sign meant. She's like, deer, come on. And they were like, okay, dink.
She had like the deer collar.
Is that the deer collar, or is that for like...
The elk. I think that's an elk collar. But that wasn't even perfect. But you did understand that it was close to that, though. But that's something that can occur, is... I guess that thinking in the process of that does not lead to The results that you're looking to yield.
Could lead to a deer hitting you 3 separate occasions.
And your car being totaled.
Can you imagine that lady like calling up her insurance company for the 3rd time? Hello, ma'am, how can I help you? A deer hit my car. Again? Again, lady?
Well, I don't think our insurance agents would be like that. They would probably be like, I'm happy to help.
I'm happy to raise your insurance.
Would you like your premium to go to $1,000 a year? Actually, that'd be great. That's wonderful. Oh, sorry, we had a miscalculation. $100,000 a year?
You're like, actually, ooh, this is a little too much. Can we make it $90,000 a year?
Now you're trying to barter with me. Let me talk to my agent, and then they're gone for like 40 minutes. They come back. How's 120?
You're like, dang, it took you that long, and you gave me a higher rate.
I'll come back.
3 hours later.
So I think this deal is quite exquisite. $250,000, and I had a voice changer.
I was gonna say, is somebody new come on?
Yes, I'm your new negotiating one. As you went into our nighttime evening hours, my name is Phil. Let me present you with this beautiful story here with Winnie the Pooh and El Tigre. They were both walking down the street. They both got hit. I gave them $1 million of insurance fraud.
You gave them insurance fraud?
Insurance fraud.
Yeah, insurance fraud.
Yes, I gave that to them. They were both happy. Both dead. So do you want insurance or not?
Wait, what company is this?
This is Phil's Emporium Incorporated. LLC.
LLC?
That sounds like that. That would probably be the fakest name. Like, I don't know if anybody's been like scammed before, but it will be something like that. Like, you go to their email, and it's like the email is supposed to state, like, let's say Bloomberg at yahoo.com, right? There's going to be Bloomberg, hi Chelsea at yahoo.com. And you're like, oh, okay, maybe that's just the message that they normally send. And then they start off every message with hi Chelsea. It's like not even their name.
You're like, who's Chelsea?
And they're like, oh, sorry, my name's Chelsea. I said my name is Ron, but it's Chelsea. Hi.
You're like, sorry, I messed up. Have you seen that guy on YouTube that like scams the scammers?
Yes, scammer payback.
It's so funny.
There's multiple people, but he's the one that I know the most of. He usually plays the old woman.
Oh, I don't know. I've seen like
It's
a
a different
few
person.
clips from this person, but it's just so funny because they'll be like, no, what are you doing? You'd be like, what? I'm doing what you told me to do.
Well, in a way, they turn like entertainment and saving something. Like, that's like two good causes right there. Like, that they were actually able to make it that. Yeah, because they'll just expose their profile too. They'll tell you exactly who they are once they have the information as well too, to make sure that, because the authorities don't actually do anything about it in India. They don't do a lot about it because it brings in a lot of capital for their GDP. That's what I've learned, actually.
Scammers? So like, bring them in.
But it's not like they entirely rely on them. I mean, they have a lot of resources still over there, but it is something where it does bring a large flow of money being taken. And it's because of our older community and them like declining and not having those people around to like tell them, hey, like, something's happening here. And they're just going to get smarter on both sides too. That's why it's good you have people that are fighting back against that. They can't save everybody either, but they can do as much as they can to help combat that.
I mean, even people like in retail, like I know working in retail, there was this woman that like came in and she was buying a Target gift card, and we normally like have to ask them like, oh, like, are you buying for a friend or a family member? And she told us that she was trying to pay her AT&T bill, but they contacted her saying that the only way to pay her bill was to go and buy a Target gift card and then like send them the information. And we were like, no, ma'am. We were like, AT&T will never ask you to do that. You are being scammed. And she was like, thank you guys so much. Like, I would have got scammed if it wasn't for you. Like, she was almost crying. Like, she hugged me. She was like, thank you so much. And I was like, yeah, they're never gonna ask you to do that.
And that's a hard thing to like see as well too, because they don't genuinely know if that's the case or not. I mean, also, this is where, like, I always, like, tell older people, like, you got to keep your mind working mentally, because something like that can, like, take everything away that you've ever earned as well, too. But it could also just take away the fact that, like, you're losing your sense of self. And that's always a sad thing, like, somebody that has, like, in the family, Alzheimer's, like, just seeing, like, they don't know who you are anymore, and they're right in front of you staring at you. It can be something that does occur, and it's harder on individuals, but it can be harder on a lot more, especially if they target somebody who does have capital too, because then they're losing all of that, and it's going to, you would think, a better place, but a lot of the scammers are people who just go out and have parties. I mean, I've heard stories of, like, hostage situations where they're like, hey, yeah, we have this hostage here, like, you're gonna give us $5,000, and then the guy would, like, talk with them. He's like, look, how about I give you about 1,600, a boombox, and a few CDs? And they agree to that, and that's such a weird thing to agree to, but they agree to it because he knows what they want to do. They just want to party, and they want money, and they're claiming that they have somebody. They might not even have that person.
They probably don't.
That's would seem typically the case. It just depends on, like, how high profile. Like, in the book, it would go through different scenarios, like bank robbers, and how they handled that situation. A lot of it comes back to the communication, about how somebody talks with one another. And we've talked about this once. The mirroring aspect they can do to somebody would be, like, one tactic. But one that is actually, like, will go above all is actually, like, being very honest. And that, it requires you to be multiple things that you don't want to be, which is, like, vulnerable, that you're weak. And that's not necessarily it, because the more that you have conversations, the better that you are going to be mentally prepared, like, for one in the future, because each one's going to be a different scenario. And that's why, like, reading the scenario, reading the body language of the individual becomes very important. Because, like, if you're actually paying attention in line, like, oh, this line's long and I'm upset with this, well, you have to put multiple factors. Like, you may be upset with it, but, like, what's going on in front of you? How's the cashier feeling? Because the cashier may be feeling the same way that you are, and whatever you say to him might actually brighten up the day, right? Like, I noticed this today, actually. Somebody placed, like, their items down in this area, and they weren't really looking at the cashier. The cashier was, like, asking questions. They were just like, But then the guy ends up, like, saying, like, a little bit of a joke, or, like, basically showing that, like, they're a person. They're not just, like, a robot, like most people like to classify people as when they're in grocery stores. They displayed it differently, of, like, showing that even though they started off very rough, I think they recognized that that person was just not really feeling it right then. They didn't like how they did all of that thing. And he can tell just by the way that they were. Like, usually, like, the face will describe a lot of that, but the body is bold too. Like, if they look, like, stiffer, you would think that something's more upset, because somebody who is relaxed is loose. Somebody who is, like, curved in, hunched over, they're not relaxed, because something is, like, taking from their energy at that time. And I try to think about that, because there are people who have, like, retail or, like, hotel jobs. I'm like, how are they always looking at their phone? And they don't really, like, look like they're doing much. But I think it's, like, something internally in their head. They're, like, going through all their thoughts and having to understand that. And maybe there's action taken after that, or maybe they just get clouded by all of those thoughts, and that cycle, as I move my hands, it continues. Because nothing actually changes that script of what's being shown.
Are you sure that that's not you?
That time it was.
I'm over here like, dang, it's really reeking out here. Thinking that somebody's dog just, like, took a big dump or something.
Dude, there's this dog down there named Billy, and he goes ham on the dirt.
Like, he puts his ham in the dirt?
No, he poops, then he rolls all over it.
Oh.
Caught on camera. 4K, 5K, 60K.
TMZ exclusive.
Do you see there's a wasp nest up there?
Well, once was one. It's hard for them to actually live in these conditions.
Yeah, with the flooding and all.
Yeah, they couldn't handle it.
It was too much for them.
I tried eating a part of the carpet too, just to ensure it was dry. It was.
Do you feel like your nose or your mouth is getting dry?
See, I thought about that as well too, because that's what was talked about the first night that happened. It didn't really actually. Overall, I can tell maybe it was a little bit, but I think because of the season that it is right now, a lot of mucus buildup can happen. So it's actually counteracting one another.
I guess. My nose feels dry.
You don't even have the fans in your room. How is that even possible?
Well, I have trouble breathing anyways at night. When I lay down, there's always either one nostril or both that are get stuffed up.
I agree. I wonder if it's the angle of the bed that plays into that role.
I think there's something wrong with our noses.
That's highly possible. Have you ever worn a snorkel during sleep?
What, am I going underwater during sleep?
Well, we got flooded, so we need to wear them during sleep because we don't know, the flood could start again.
And you wouldn't notice until it got up to you?
I would notice as soon as I saw Jesus walking on water. Hallelujah.
Why would you be wearing it? You see Jesus and you're like, oh no, sorry, let me take off my snorkel real quick.
Yeah, then I'm safe. I'm safe because he gave... Okay,
then you're
people
dead.
are like, oh, he saves you. He gave me flippers. Flipper slippers.
He gave me twinkle toes.
He gave me the Bejeweled.
Like Taylor Swift?
No, why does everybody think that?
Because
Do you not
she has a
remember
song called
do you not
Bejeweled.
remember that gun that they had?
That is for your hair. I don't know why you're facing the gun at your arm.
Because it's a real gun.
No, it's for your hair, to bedazzle your hair.
Is it for that? What about my fingernails?
They actually have gems for your nails.
Yeah. I'm gonna put some emeralds on there. Show them who's boss in the city.
What if you just...
Sex in the City, season 11.
I think they're way past season 11.
Dude, I think they have 26 seasons. I think somebody talked about that. That's one of the longest running shows.
That is actually not. You remember we looked this up?
Yeah, but it's one of the longest running, whatever they're called, sitcoms or something. I don't know what category that's under.
Sex in the City is not a sitcom.
What do you consider it? Drama?
I guess. I mean, I've never seen it myself.
I think actually it's considered a kid show. It's not. I probably consider it wildlife. Put it on Discovery. As we see, the mate is running up to the hotel room looking for a good time.
I thought you were about to say looking for a mate, and I was like, what?
No, they could.
A mate looking for a mate.
A mate looking for a mate. This is not Australia.
Are you doing, mate?
It would go something along those lines.
My toesies are getting cold.
Well, yeah, we're probably going to end it here because we're about at that mark. Because we're going to have to work overtime tonight to make sure that we can pay for the flooding. That was not our fault. Live or let die.
No, but hopefully we will be back in our regular area for the next podcast.
Yeah, this is probably the most sporadic podcast, and it might be because somebody's cold, somebody's farting, and just mentally.
Oh my god, but you can see my breath.
Yeah, they can also hear echo. Somebody's like, "Hey, calm down that dog." I'm like, "Hey, you calm down that bunny rabbit."
Also, Nick Jonas's famous line about the moon and the toenail. It's up in the sky tonight.
Do not believe any of these sayings. I think she's internally high off the wasp nest juices that are falling from the ceiling. Indeed.
Thank you guys though for watching. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Whee!
Right there by your side. Can gangsters cry? Sandy, I've been missing all Yo,